Bill Gates learns how to add tadka to khichdi. Bill Gates is impressed with India's healthcare efforts. Bill Gates is more optimistic than ever about India. These are just some of the headlines running on TV all day. Media is busy celebrating his holy visit. Some prominent journalists even interviewed him about what he thinks about what India is doing right and where it's going wrong. And the satisfied man answers with a divine smile on his face. The madness surrounding his visit to India has yet again exposed the colonial mindset of the media and many in elite circles. Thank you for tuning in. This is Ratna. You are watching Empire Diaries. Bill Gates, a typical businessman, is here on his own agenda to promote the business interests of the West. He is meeting politicians, NGOs, and doing exactly what an opportunist businessman does. Taking pictures with farmers, posting them on social media, updating his bhakts by putting some visuals from the blockbuster Bollywood movies, writing blog posts about the investment opportunities in Bharat and whatnot. But why should we suck up to him? Why should we ask him for his certificate about how we are running our country? As if 1.4 billion people are losing sleep until we get a certificate from him. Will the American press ask Ratan Tata and Mukesh Ambani for their certificate on how the US runs itself? Only the press of an economically colonized country like Bharat can do that. Do they know that they are disrespecting their own civilization, their own culture, their own history and tradition? During one of his lectures, he called Bharat the cheapest 5G market in the days to come. Now, that's demeaning and derogatory word to use for a civilization much older than all the Western nations. To call Bharat a market is an insult. Is that what the West still thinks about Bharat after all these years? The days of direct colonial rule were over long back, but still Bharat is nothing more than a market for the West to dump tons and tons of goods. This is not the first time that Bharat has been labeled as a market by a Western celebrity. Many Western world leaders and business heads have called us a market during their visits in the past. Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg have made remarks in recent years bordering on treating Bharat as a market. Of course, they used more sugar-coated language. The characterization of Bharat as a marketplace for the world goes beyond business and diplomacy. Former FIFA president Sepp Blatter too had called Bharat a lucrative market during his visit here in 2012. He repeated that 2 years later, and the great paid media reported his atrocious remarks positively. From Bill Gates' perspective, this characterization about Bharat is only expected because he represents a Western corporate world. He is a co-founder of Microsoft, which was a near monopoly in the technology world during its best years. He later started advertising the use of vaccines despite having no formal education in medical science.
Over half the world's population has already received 2 doses of these vaccines. But in several respects, these vaccines are not perfect.
Farther down the line, he became a major owner of farmland in the US. No wonder he promotes genetically modified crops. And then he started supporting the digitalization of money and economy. More recently, he joined the Western trend of lecturing the countries from the global south about climate change action. During his trip, he praised the massive jump in digital payments at the peak of the pandemic. Well, digital economy is a sugar-coated term for a war on cash. We all know that India cannot afford another war on cash, as a failed demonetization showed in 2016. We have exposed in detail how Gates has dropped cryptic hints at the coming digitalization of the Indian economy just 11 months before the note ban.
The large developing countries. We have very significant efforts in India, Pakistan, Nigeria, and a dozen other countries where we work with the central bank to make sure that the right sort of transaction switch is available. And it's being set up in an open way with very, very low transaction fees.
During his visit, Gates wrote, "The country is showing what's possible when we invest in innovation. I hope India will continue this progress and share its innovations with the world. I'm proud that Gates Foundation will be a partner along the way." Partner is indeed a warning for us. Also notice that I hope India will continue this progress and share its innovations. I'd like to remind you that he is the one who refused to share the secret vaccine formula with our country. Have a look at this clip. It will show you how he once demonized Bharat when it came to sharing vaccine formula.
The recipe for these vaccines to be shared would be helpful. Do you think that would be helpful?
No.
Why not?
The same Bill Gates now wants Bharat to share innovations with the world. During his trip, Mr. Gates also visited the Indian Council of Agricultural Research, where he discussed the so-called link between farming and climate change. That's another grey area, and we don't know what's cooking. What we know for sure is that representatives of the West like Bill Gates shouldn't worry about India's role in climate change. Rather, they should figure out how the rich Western countries should stop harming the climate. He must know that India's per capita CO2 emissions is way less than that of the other major nations on the planet. Mr. Gates should better focus on solving that problem first. The point is, even Bill Gates says all these things about Bharat, why should we pay attention and feel honored? Does he really deserve that attention? Is he getting the attention and news coverage only because he represents the West? A few centuries ago, there was a time when 7 East India companies led by the British East India Company colonized Bharat, controlled our lives, and looted our resources. A lot of people used to complain back then, but also remember that a lot of people also used to support the colonizers. With Bill Gates' visit, it seems we are seeing a continuation of that same old colonial mentality, the same old unquestioned love for anything and everything that is Western. The whole discussion in the media is about, is he impressed by what we are doing? Is he approving our way of dealing with the diseases? Is he certifying us? The whole discussion is a bitter exposition of cultural and knowledge bankruptcy of our media friends. Indian journalism has no doubt stooped to a new low. This colonial mentality takes us back by 500 years to the time when the Portuguese sailor cum pirate Vasco da Gama reached the shores of our country. Since the time we allowed the Portuguese to colonize our land, we opened the floodgates to full-scale Western colonization. The Dutch, the French, and of course the British colonized us over centuries. Back then it was 7 East India companies. Now we have almost 4,000 modern day East India companies, and yet we don't mind. And that's why people like Bill Gates, a representative of Western vested interests, can continue that legacy. Thanks for watching. For stories like this and more, you'll have to follow us on empirediaries.com and our YouTube channel, Empire Diaries, because we cover the cover-ups. Haven't subscribed our YouTube channel yet? Do subscribe our YouTube channel and follow us on empirediaries.com. Follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. Send get updates to 98210 45739 to stay updated and stay awake.